Each week, we will break down what's happening across the baseball prospect world, from high school to college, all the way up to the pros. Let's start off with the first pitch. So, main stories coming out of the baseball prospect world is going to be the spring breakouts that just finished up. We had some late roster confirmations, which kind of put some of the matchups a little bit underwhelming based on what we had hoped for. But overall, it turned out pretty solid. Lots of really good action, and we'll break down some of those stars. Jose Fernandez with Arizona. He went 3 for 3, continuing a super hot spring that he has had there in Arizona. Uh, Put himself in a spot that could very well see him up with the Diamondbacks before the end of the year. Ryan Sloan, pitcher for Seattle, 9 up, 9 down, absolutely pounded the zone. A really impressive outing from him. Gavin Fien, now with Washington, he went 3 for 4, 2 doubles, had 5 RBIs in his match. Other big news, as I'm recording here, today is Wednesday. Tonight is MLB opening night. Tomorrow starts MLB opening day, the date that this comes out. We got some prospects that made opening day rosters that have yet to debut in Major League Baseball. Justin Crawford. A lot of people expected that. It was pretty well known that the Phillies were planning on having him be the center fielder for this year, and it looks like that starts on opening day. Carson Bench has made the opening day roster for the Mets. J.J. Weatherholt makes the opening day roster for the St. Louis Cardinals, and Kevin McGonigal, the latest, he's made the opening day roster for the Detroit Tigers. So let's move on to the recap of the amateur matchup that we previewed last week, which was Texas against Auburn. It was an absolutely incredible matchup there on Friday night, with Ruger Riojas pitching for Texas, Jake Marciano pitching for Auburn. Auburn was down 3-1, bottom of the ninth. They had bases loaded. Bristol Carter, who come in as defensive replacement at the plate, hits a single up the middle. Aiden Robbins comes charging in, looking to pick up that ball and fire home to try and prevent the tying run from scoring. Ball gets under his glove, rolls all the way to the wall. Runner from first ends up scoring, giving Auburn the 4-3 win in an otherwise incredible matchup. It was a wild night overall. Texas ended up taking the next 2 to win the series. They would have liked to see come out with a sweep, but that error by Aiden Robbins allowed the walk-off win for Auburn. Now that said, Aiden Robbins had himself a heck of a night outside of that. He went 2 for 4 at the plate with 2 absolute moonshot home runs. He's the guy that came in already with a solid hit tool, but man, that power is showing up for Texas. Just an incredible matchup. Incredible showing, I should say. He really impressed there. Now, for the offense for Auburn, Chris Rembert had a blue double in the first. He went 2 for 4. Chase Fralick went 1 for 3. He also had a double. Mason McCrane also went 2 for 4 with a double. On the pitching side of things, you had Ruger Riojas went 6 1/3, 1 earned run, 1 walk, which happened to be his last batter of the game, and he struck out 6. Jake Marciano, you're watching here with us, so that his highlights are showing right as we speak. He went 7 innings, gave up just 2 hits, 1 earned run, walked 2, struck out 9. He's a guy who topped out at 91, 92, but he has excellent command. He knows how to work the zone. He has everything moves. Good, like I said, good command. Shows that you don't need that elite velocity to be a Friday night start in the SEC to be a pro prospect. He very much is, even if he doesn't have that incredible incredible velocity. That said, it certainly helps, and he has a very projectable frame, which we could see him turning into a really high draft pick possibility. Moving on to the third, this is going to be us taking a look at the preview for the week for the amateur side of baseball. It is NHSI week. As of recording, there are games happening right now. This is the biggest high school baseball tournament mid-season that there is every year. It is absolutely must watch. Now, it's on AWRE and Game Changer. So it used to be just a free watch. Unfortunately, it isn't anymore. I do believe Game Changer gives you a handful of games you can watch at no charge. But definitely, if you can, keep an eye on, watch some of these games. And I'll recap, just instead of a singular game out of NHSI, I'll recap NHSI overall next week. But that being said, let's take a look at some of the teams and the players. It's a 16-team event. There are these, like I said, the premier tournament in season for high school baseball teams. You've got Edmond Memorial at Oklahoma, Gloucester Catholic out of New Jersey, St. Thomas Aquinas in California, Nolensville, Tennessee, Baylor out of Tennessee, Del Barton out of New Jersey, Harvard Westlake out of California, Castile out of Arizona, Venice out of Florida, Trinity out of Kentucky, Tampa Jesuit in Florida, who has 3 elite arms in Caden Wechter, Wilson Anderson, and Samir Mohammed, Orange Lutheran out of California, who has 10 power conference commits, and 5 of them on the infield, even though there's only 4 infield positions. So 5 guys who are listed as shortstops on their roster committed to Power 5 conference. So they will obviously have guys out of position just to get them on the field. St. John Bosco's there, Regis Jesuit here out of Colorado. Hudson Alpert's not going to be throwing as he's still recovering from injury. Trinity Christian out of Florida, and Wakefield in North Carolina. So those are the teams that are there. Now I'm going to rattle off a bunch of names and ranks. These are the ranked players that we have on our ranks at 3/4 slot between the 2026 and the 2027 high school classes. These are all players that are participating in this tournament. You've got James Clark ranked 21 for us, and teammate Jaden Jackson at 69. Guy Lynham is 165. Wyatt Clater, 151. Brady Harris, 12. Bo Holloway, 73. Cooper Sides, 20. Gary Morse, 47. Eric Zadunek, 97. CJ Weinstein, he's ranked 80th. I mentioned Caden Wechter, 20th. Wilson Anderson, 49th. You got Jordan Martinez, ranked 171. Ethan Wheeler, ranked 196. Parker Lowe, 120. And he actually drove in the first RBI of the weekend of the NHSI tournament, as his first at bat, he had an RBI double against Edmond Memorial. Grayson Willoughby is ranked 85 for us. Ryan Harwood is ranked 63. James Tronstein ranked 56. Those are the 2026 high school prospects in our top 200 at this tournament. There's also 4 prospects in our top 50 for 2027, with Graham Houston ranked 10th for us, Merrick Houston's little brother. Samir Mohammed, the other arm there for Tampa Jesuit, and an arm I really like in the 2027 class. We've got Bear Calvo ranked 38th. And we have Carter Hadnot ranked 19th for us on the 2029 class. Just absolutely a ton of incredible talent. It was looking here, that was just James Clark with his smooth left-handed swing. We've also, let's see here, just a really nice swing here from James Clark, who was absolutely crushed it over the summer, over the fall. Originally a Princeton commit, now committed to Duke. So again, just a lot of incredible talent there in Cary, North Carolina at the USA Baseball Complex. and a ton of really good stuff to watch. NHSI is always a ton of fun. As I kind of rolled through there, as you can see, there's just an absolute boatload of talent going on out there. And like I said, if you can watch it, if you can tune in, absolutely worthwhile. Not happy that it's some of it's behind a paywall this year, but what you can watch is an absolute blast, and I really do recommend tuning in where you can. Now moving on, the pro recap. I kind of highlighted the Pittsburgh Pirates and Detroit Tigers spring breakout coming into last week. It did not disappoint. However, the Tigers did go ahead and decide that their players in big league camp did not participate in the spring breakout, so Kevin McGonigal ended up not being out there. That said, still plenty of impressive talent there, including Max Clark. This pitch that you're seeing, if you're watching, yes, I get it. It's a ball. This is a pitch from Seth Hernandez, and it was a 102.4. Max Clark described it as a beam of light. Like I said, if you were watching, you can see exactly what Max Clark thought of this pitch. It absolutely blew him away. And it was the talk of the spring breakout matchup there. Tamar Johnson and Max Clark did collide there in the first inning. Tamar Johnson was down for a bit. Luckily, they were all back up, and they were ultimately healthy in the end. But it was a kind of a scary moment. On the offensive side of things, Tony Blanco Jr. absolutely crushed a grand slam. It's actually being shown if you're watching the video. That's his grand slam in this game. Absolute moonshot. He has light tower power. This thing was up by the light towers. It was an absolute blast. He's a guy who has as much power as there is in minor league baseball. Easton Carmichael hit a solo shot to center field. Mitch Jebb, a former shortstop for Michigan State, now playing in the outfield with the Pirates, he hit a absolutely frozen rope to the right field fence. That ball, and then he turned that into a triple, showing off his incredible wheels with a wild diving slide into third base. Ton of fun to watch. For the Tigers, Isaac Pacheco came away with the only multi-hit game, but Joe Miller was the star on the mound. 2 1/3, only gave up 1 hit. 6 of his strikeouts came via the K, and he had his fastball up to 95. The Pirates ended up winning that matchup 8-7. But of course, the spring breakout does not matter who wins necessarily at the current time. That is all coming up with next year when they start the single elimination tournament, which should be a lot of fun to watch. In terms of previews, at the time of this recording, we have not seen all of the full rosters for AAA, and definitely not for the lower levels. And there's still a lot of the starting pitchers to be announced. So I want to just go ahead and focus on the lineup, a lineup that really stood out for me. And we're going to go ahead and highlight the Friday night, opening night AAA matchup between St. Paul, the St. Paul Saints, Minnesota Twins affiliate, and the Indianapolis Indians, a Pittsburgh Pirates affiliate. You're going to have Konnor Griffin there, number 1 prospect in baseball. We'll see how long he sticks down at AAA before he is in Pittsburgh. At this point, we all know just how exciting of a player he is. They've also got the password Juxton Garcia, Jack Brannigan, Antoine Kelly, Esmerlin Valdez. Some really good prospects there with Pittsburgh. A lot of guys that we kind of expect to see up in the big leagues before the end of the year. 2 top prospects that I was able to confirm on that St. Paul roster for the Twins. You got Emmanuel Rodriguez and Walker Jenkins. Both guys are outfielders with injury past, but a ton of talent. Emmanuel Rodriguez, 5-tool potential that are at least average. He's got some plus raw power. Walker Jenkins was 5th overall in that stacked top of the 2023 draft. He just turned 21 back in February, so just over a month ago. Big tools, but again, injuries have slowed his development so far. We want to go ahead and see him stay healthy, and could very well see him in the big leagues with Minnesota before the end of the year. Moving on to the 6th, our high school board. I got a chance to get out to Grandview High School this week and see Ethan Washman throw. It was impressive. It was his first outing of the year after tweaking a hamstring leading into the year. He only went 2 innings, but that was as expected. That was the plan. He was up to 99, sat 95, 96. Fastball went up to 99. He was up to 101 in bullpens this week. The slider, 79 to 83, more of a slurvy offering. That spent right around 2,900. He had a cutter sitting around 88. And he does have a kick change that he did not really use much. Actually, he did not use it at all on the day. The command dipped in the 2nd inning. He struggled a little bit. The velocity came down to more 93, 94, rather than the 95, 96 that he was sitting in the first. Again, he had a tweaked hamstring leading into the season. So this is very much going to be impact that very much impacted his ability to hold that velocity and go deep in the game. If you're watching, you saw that cutter there. The fastball really jumps on hitters. He quieted his delivery down a decent amount. There used to be a bit more of a head whack. It's much more of a controlled delivery. There was definitely times that the concern was that he was going to be a reliever. It's looking much better these days with his delivery. There's still some fight to that front foot, but overall, just absolutely fires that ball in that 3/4 slot. A ton of fun to watch. And a guy who is climbing draft boards and will be – he did not make our top 200. He was lower on our top 200, I believe it was, this time around. I forgot to double-check exactly where he was. He is a guy who is climbing, especially if he starts to hit the triple digits with regularity in game. In terms of a bat that I wanted to highlight for this week, just going to go ahead and talk about Easton Katura, an outfield out of Vauxhall in Canada. He had a really good weekend down in the Bishop Gorman Invitational. He went 5 for 11, had a home run in his with the first pitch he saw. He walked 3 times, struck out just once. He's a good left-handed bat. He's committed to Miami. Above average raw power. That contact rate is improving. More of a corner outfield profile, so that does hurt some of his value because it does not have a premium position. There's a good chance that he ends up at left field. But as you can see here, some real good whip to that bat. Ball jumps, and no doubt home run on the video if you are watching. He had a really good weekend down in Nevada. For the pro side of things, the college side of things, the pitcher to talk about, this one was easy. Tyler Fay, Alabama, no-hit the Florida Gators this weekend on Friday night. The first solo no-hitter for Alabama since 1942. They've had run rule shortened no-hitters. They've had combined no-hitters, but this is the first, as you can see on the screen if you are watching, solo Alabama 9-inning no-hitter since 1942. Tyler Fay showed really well. He went 132 pitches. He only walked 2, struck out 13. He's got that super low slot, He fastball 90-95. He typically is pretty heavy, relies heavily on that fastball. Slider 79-83, low 80s changeup, and a cutter around the mid 80s. Just absolutely shoved though against Florida, which is a stacked lineup. They haven't really had the greatest season so far, but boy oh boy was that impressive by Tyler Fay getting that win against Florida and with that no hitter and 132 pitches, just 2 walks and 13 strikeouts. At the plate, I was kind of back and forth. I nearly went with Miles Bailey as the bat to feature, but ultimately I want to go ahead and talk about Daniel Cuvée, the corner infielder for the University of Miami. This weekend it was against Creighton, so it was not against ACC competition, but he went 4 for 8, 3 home runs. He scored 7 times, drove in 6. He had 8 walks and did not strike out. Kind of a unique background. His dad is a pro highlight player. He was drafted by Pittsburgh back in 2023, obviously did not sign, chose to go to Miami. In his freshman year, he set the freshman home run record. He now has 52. As of Monday, he had 52 home runs in his career at Miami, 3rd in program history, tied with Yonder Alonso. He's chasing Pat Burrell, who's at 61. So 9 more home runs to tie Pat Burrell for the program record in home runs. Just tells you how much power this guy has. It's real, true 70 grade raw power. It's an aggressive approach, but that power does play to all fields. I think he can stick at third base, but there's a chance he moves over to first. But it's the bat that drives the profile. If you're watching again, just absolutely crushing this ball. Like I said, not against ACC competition, but it was a really good weekend. Moving on to the pro side of things. I want to go ahead and feature some guys who are on major league rosters to open the year that have not debuted yet in the MLB. So on the arm side of things, a lot of the top pitching prospects did not make opening day rosters. It's not uncommon given the setup there with the ability to manipulate rotations and such the first couple of weeks of the season. You'll often see the pitchers, the top pitching prospects, come up a little bit later on. But I want to go ahead and feature Peyton Payette, the former Arkansas Razorback, is on the opening day roster for the Cleveland Guardians. He was drafted by the White Sox out of Arkansas. He was a Rule 5 pick this last year. He 4.20 ERA in his 218 2/3 minor league innings. He's been a starter. He's been a closer. He started 34 games. He's finished 35. He's pitched in 106. In his minor league career, he has 259 strikeouts to 103 walks. This spring, he threw just 6 innings, struck out 3 walks. 3 hits, 3 walks, and 11 K. He's a guy who, coming out of Arkansas, had a real chance to be the number 1 pick. I think he signed for $1.5 million later on in the draft because he had missed the entire year with Tommy John. Threw just a couple of bullpens down the stretch that some teams got to see, and there was a lot of hope that he was going to be. There's a lot of thought that he could be a premier arm, but ultimately he just has not really come to full fruition. That said, he is a Rule 5 pick. He sticks with the Cleveland Guardians, where he should have a pretty solid role in the bullpen there with Cleveland. On the offensive side of things, Justin Crawford. I know we want to talk. The big name that made the roster was Kevin McGonigal, but plenty has been talked about him. I want to talk about Justin Crawford. He was a 17th overall pick in 2022. He is the son of longtime big leaguer Carl Crawford. He hit 334 at AAA last year. He's got just 19 home runs in his 325 minor league games, but he's got a 411 on base percentage. That slug is just a 452. It is a center field profile, lead speed, high contact rate. It's a ground ball heavy approach, and that allows him to really allow his speed to play up. But it's not going to really turn into much in terms of the power. Don't expect a lot of power out of him, but it is a guy who table center. The guy you can see be at the top of the lineup, steal bags, play really good center field, and that's what the Phillies are looking for out of him this year. Now, moving on to the ninth and the closer. Let's take a look at what's going on around three-quarter slot this week. We've got the site redesign and a new logo coming out. By the time the podcast comes out next week, that will have launched. We will go ahead and drop a new logo on the April the 2nd, the day that the podcast comes up. The new logo, a little redesign on the website, and that marks 100 days to the draft. What reports are we looking at this week? We've got Jordan. He was at UCLA again last night. You'll see Mulavai Lavu and Dean West coming out of him from next week. Sam, he's got a report on Georgia Tech draft eligible sophomore Will Baker. He'll also be out at the Woo Sox this weekend, taking in some AAA action, and we'll have some reports back from there. Eric highlights Jack Riddell, the pitcher from Notre Dame, and Hudson Flora, the brother of UCSB pitcher Jackson Flora. Hudson is a catcher, and that's going to be, he clearly has caught some decent arms just in his own household, but Eric has that write-up coming. I've got write-ups on guys like Denton Lord, Chase Fralick, Sam Harry, NL West will be all coming up this next week, and plenty more. But again, like I said, next Thursday marks 100 days until the draft. Make sure you check out the three-quarter slot MLB draft guide. We will rank 650 players on the draft, each of them with a fresh and full scouting report. They'll be automatically emailed to you about a week. I think I'm highlighting July the 3rd for that to come out. So you have a little over a week before the draft to get through the 650 reports, the ranks, all that good stuff. Pre-order it now. It is available. And with that, thank you for tuning in to the Three Quarter Slot podcast, and we'll be back again next week.